The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production.
I've got a box.
What's in the box?
It's come from...
Have you ever seen Seven, by the way?
No.
What's in the box? Don't open the box!
Terrifying. This has come from West Des Moines, USA.
Right. Oh, okay.
To Fujicast, Neil and Kev.
Yeah.
I like it when I get parcels like that. What do you think's in this box? It's a little brown box, very light.
I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. Just showing me a box. What, dentures?
Right, I'm going to open it up.
Gemma's dentures. Oh, she didn't hear.
Okay, so...
Gemma's dentures. Ah, I thought you'd hear.
Oh, bless her.
This looks like...
right, what do you think? So, I'll describe, because otherwise... we've got 4 things that are identical.
Yes.
Little orange...
They are.
Very light, plasticky looking things. With,
they look like toothpaste holders for a Barbie doll.
Well, okay, so you've got 3 guesses.
Okay, well, that wasn't one.
3 guesses at what these are, and if you don't get it right, I get to keep all of them.
All right.
If you get it right, you can have 2.
That's not fair.
Yep.
I'm awful at these sort of games. So they've got little slits in them, so they can't carry any liquid, can they? Well, I don't know. That one's.
Oh, you made them all fall over now.
That one's. I mean, it's a holder for something, isn't it? I don't know. Look, it's.
Correct. Well, that's good. Yes, you're getting warmer.
Oh, okay, so
warmer.
So this, we must put a picture of this. We must put a picture of this, by the way.
We will.
This is to hold. I know, it's an eye cup holder.
A what?
Eye cup holder.
What's an eye cup?
Well, an eye cup, you know, when you put on your the thing that you look through when you through the viewfinder.
Why would you want something to hold that? It stays on the camera.
Well, I know, but you might.
We're still getting warm. It is something to do with the cameras.
I keep spares, so I could keep my eye cups in this. Okay, so it's. I know, it's something that you use to make putting straps on your cameras easier.
No, wrong. You got all 3 wrong, so I get to keep
I didn't do
all
3.
of them.
Did I do 3?
Yeah, okay, one more bonus one.
Look, you'll have to accept the Barbie one because I can't think of another one. So
Barbie?
I've done all 3.
Barbie?
No, the toothbrush holder.
Oh.
Barbie
all right, okay, well, so I get to keep all of them.
And now you're going to tell me that
they're worth £1 million each.
I can't do without them.
And they're made out of
plastic,
something or other. No, so the actual truth is these have been sent to us very kindly from Steve Dyke in the US of A.
Thank you, Steve. What the devil are they?
And I'm going to read it out. Okay, I'm going to read out the little letter he sent to us, which was very kind of him. Greetings from the USA. These are just a little something to lift your spirits, which it certainly did. I designed these Fuji X Series battery holders.
Oh, that is inspired.
And 3D printed them so my batteries don't get lost in my bag. And so I can tell which ones are charged and which ones are dead.
What a great idea.
Yes, he says he thought it would be nice
And the little hole there is so you can see whether it's a square or round dot or whatever.
Exactly that. So he thought it was nice to send us some. He says thank you for the work that we both do in the Fujicast community as a whole, which is very kind. And then he explains the system, which is I have a little system for using this case. Orange dot on the top means the battery is fully charged. Orange dot on the bottom, metal contacts exposed, and you know it needs to be charged. Also, if you orient...
And you can push them out really easily.
Yeah, if you orient the footed batteries correctly, the metal contacts will be covered by the plastic and you don't have to worry about the impending doom of the battery contacts touching something else metal and exploding.
That is so clever.
Yeah, plastic. And so he 3D printed that.
And a perfect fit.
At home.
I want to get a 3D printer. I've no idea what I'm going to use it for.
Oh, I know what I would print.
What would you print?
I'm not telling you.
Don't tell me. You're starting a new business.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Gemma? I know. I did think it was a good idea that he went back into it.
These are good, aren't they?
These are fantastic. What a fantastic invention.
The Fujicast.
Thank you, Steve.
Very, very clever, and thank you, Steve. Am I actually allowed to keep 2, or did I really fail so much?
You can have 1. You can have 1.
1?
Okay, you can have 2.
I tell you what, Steve, could we do these with... we're going to a little business together. I shouldn't probably be asking this on the air, but we could go into a little business with Steve, couldn't we? We could get some branded ones for the Fujicast.
Good. Yep.
Merch. That would be the first one I would call really handy merch.
Of course, Fujifilm have just changed the shape of the batteries.
Have they?
For the X-T4.
Yeah, of course they have, yes.
Yeah.
We could have 2 lines of it.
Could, easily, yeah.
Not an issue.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm going to put that over there in the...
Wonderful.
It's the wonderful pile.
I just like going like this with them.
Oh, were you one of those annoying kids in classroom that used to do that with the glockenspiel or whatever? Oh, no, the wood blocks, that was it. Welcome to the Fuji Cast. You and your questions today from our electronic mailbag, and of course also through the Fuji Cast private Facebook group. I must admit, the questions have been rolling in nicely through that group. Please keep sending them in, though. If you're not a Fujifilm shooter, it makes no odds. You're still warmly welcome here, because the talk is very much also aimed at being this thing we call a photographer. Whether you're amateur... A long pause there, because I'm beginning to wonder whether I am now.
Well, if you're not getting paid for it, you're amateur.
You're amateur.
That's it. We're amateurs.
Yes, welcome.
Although we're not actually doing it. So if you're not being paid for something you're not doing, can you call yourself anything?
Well, I'm still. I'm photographing. I'm photographing. No, I'm photographing now and then.
Right. Are you getting paid for it?
Now and then.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're still a professional then?
Semi-pro, I would.
Sure.
Semi-pro. And also today's guest is Andrew Hall. Andrew Hall, who from Australia. Have you ever been to Australia, Kev?
Shut it.
And yes, he's going to be talking about motorsport. Fascinating guest. And fascinating also because of some things that life has thrown in his way that does not make photographing easy. Imagine not being able to feel or have any feeling in your hands or indeed your ankles, your feet.
Well, I never knew that.
Yeah. There's some fascinating films on Andrew. In particular, sometimes when he's known in the racing circuit now, the motorsport circuit, and it's very much revered as well.
Yeah.
And there's some films on how he has, I suppose, embraced these things life things that have been thrown at him. Sometimes when he's in the garages, for example, he has to be, if he goes onto his knees to go photograph something at a lower angle, then he has to be helped back up again. A lot of the time, of course, being able to flip the viewfinder up has helped him immeasurably.
Yeah.
There's many reasons he swapped, weight being one of the real reasons, of course, from DSLRs to the Fuji system. But it's fascinating to watch him because some of the Fuji, some of those what is it, the F2, what is it, 200mm?
Yep.
Now that's quite a big lens, isn't it?
Yep.
So he
it's almost as tall as me.
But he uses that without an issue at all. Anyway, but there's a lot about his photography to discuss as well. So Andrew Hall is our guest, and also we got a brand new feature.
Have we discussed this?
Yeah, Carl Hare.
Oh yes, Carl. Yeah. I was involved in that.
You did the work.
I thought, well, hang on, what's this? Throw me again. No. Yes. Yeah, Carl. Good old Carl. He's here. Some of you guessed correctly when I said who it was going to be on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Tech specialist, all-round good guy, brainiest person in the world.
Is he?
Yeah. Okay. And I met Jeremy Vine.
Is he the brainiest person in the world?
No, Carl Harris.
Jeremy Vine's second, is he?
Yeah.
He's brother of Tim Vine.
He is.
And Tim Vine...
funniest bloke in the world.
Well, I don't know. Could you go and watch somebody just do one-liners for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little bit like when I record the podcast, to be honest with you. That's what I'm going through that right now.
Are you? Well, no, it's not. But no, Tim Vine is like, it's the cheesy joke after cheesy joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, my parents-in-law love him, but then they love Joe Pasquale.
Oh, no, I can't do Joe Pasquale. There really is,
you can't buy class.
Tim Vine was in...
sorry, Joe.
In Not Going Out, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah,
that is the
but somebody
the king of one-liners.
Yeah, no, but somebody writes the scripts for him, and they don't let him do as many.
Lee Mack.
Does Lee Mack write that one?
Lee Mack writes
Very
that.
Clever writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Should we do the questions?
Yeah. Before people leave us,
you're going to start.
I'll go first. I have a question from Kevin Beecham, which is the best name in the world. Kevin.
All right.
Trying to use Acros with my X100S.
Right.
I have seen a video that changing the data in the image and changing it from S to F fools Capture One to allow you to use all the F film simulations without a PC or Mac. I've tried with Lightroom Mobile and find that when I change the data, it saves the new image as a JPEG, so the camera matching isn't available. Is there an edit app that would allow me to keep the changed data as a RAW, or is this just another circumstance that I need to get a PC or a Mac? So essentially what he's saying is he doesn't have a PC or a Mac, and he's trying to change the EXIF data from X100S to X100F. And if you do that, some software packages, including Lightroom and Capture One by the sounds of it, will think that the file is from an F and then will allow you to use the Acros.
So you can fool it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points here. Remember, whenever you're using Capture One or indeed Lightroom, and you apply the Acros film simulation from Capture One or Lightroom, all you're doing is applying their idea of it. It's not the same as the one you will get from the camera. The only way you're going to do that is if you use Fujifilm X-RAW Studio. Okay, that's the only way you will get an exact replica. So, but to go back to the main question, yes, you can do this, but you will need either a Mac or a PC. The tool that you can use is called EXIF tool, all one word, EXIFTOOL. I assume there's a Mac version of it. I have a PC version of it. You basically load your RAW files up, and you go into the application, and where it says Fujifilm X100S, you just delete the S and put an F.
Easy as that.
Press save, and it updates the RAW file, the EXIF data in the RAW file.
And will it remember it for all?
Yeah. That's it on that RAW file. You can do it on multiple RAW files. Now, there's a couple of things you need to be careful of. One, it could end up going drastically wrong. So do not do this on RAW files that, back your RAW files up, basically, is my point. I use it sometimes. For example, I've been using it to do some testing on some new JPEG recipes in Fujifilm X-RAW Studio, and the images I'm testing it against are GFX 50R images. I no longer have a GFX 50R, so X-RAW Studio, you need to have the camera plugged into the computer
to change the. Otherwise, it's going to think forevermore that
So yeah, it just will not work. So I've changed the RAW files from. I've told it it's no longer GFX 50R. It's a GFX 100. Yeah. And now I have a GFX 100, so I can do it. So you need a tool called EXIF tool. That's all you need. It's free. There's two variants of it. It's a command line variant, which is for the real kind of Carl Hare would be able to deal with that easily. Or there's the GUI, graphical user interface version, which is for regular people like me.
Right.
Pretty pictures, drag and drop, that kind of stuff.
This is why you like Squarespace.
Yeah, so Kevin, EXIF tool is what you need, but I do not think you will be able to do it just on an iPad. I think you will need a grown-up computer.
You just go next door and borrow your neighbour's computer.
Yeah. You only need somebody with
half
one.
An hour.
Yeah,
that's it.
And it's a lightweight app as well, so you wouldn't need you don't need a powerful machine to do that.
Right. What has happened to the Instagram algorithm, Kev? It's changed.
Has it?
Have you not noticed last few days?
No.
I'm getting somebody help us here. It's just completely changed. All of a sudden, I'm not seeing any of the stuff that I used to see regularly. And my bless him, our youngest son Thomas is with his train channel. He was getting sort of like 50. Yeah, I'm seeing an awful lot of your wife's stuff. But I did see hers before, to be fair. But I'm getting, as I say, my young son, his stuff's just not being seen by all the people that used to follow him. There's more and more adverts.
I've never ever once had an advert on Instagram. Look at my feed, right? This is my feed.
Yeah.
No adverts.
How comes you don't get any adverts? No, that's an advert. Stop.
Where?
Out now.
It's not an advert.
What's that?
He's put that as a picture on there.
Oh,
it's
right,
not a promoted advert.
It's because you were going right. Okay.
There's no.
There's. Look, go back. You give that a little double tap there. That's Thomas's little. See, you're getting his stuff.
Maybe. Are you sure you just haven't got my phone and I've got yours? You're getting lots of pictures of my wife and I'm getting lots of pictures of Thomas.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, I'm very spooked by the ads. I mean, you're not getting the ads, but
I don't get any ads and never have.
Okay, so we started talking about the other day. We had to put some chairs and stuff back in the loft.
I'm getting the same stuff.
Because now that the government will only let us have 2 guests round on every other Tuesday that start with the letter F, then so we got rid of some of the guest chairs.
Just get loads of guns.
Downstairs.
Just get loads of guns and stick a grouse in the middle of the garden. You can have as many people as you want.
Yeah, that's it. So it's okay to have... I know you can't take 30 kids to a pond and watch the ducks, but you can take 30 adults to
shoot them.
To a pond and shoot them. Yeah.
That's insane. Anyway.
But yeah, so we were putting the chairs up into the loft, and Sam happened to mention to me, we must get this loft insulation done. Bingo, 2 days later. Not even 2 days, actually. Loft insulation adverts.
Yeah, but you can switch all that stuff off on your phone.
I know. I just wanted to.
Maybe this is why I don't get any adverts, because I have all of the listening
You've all
stuff switched off.
Yeah. How do you switch them off again?
Well, it used to be in the preferences. So
Let me go here.
this may well be because I've done it. I did it a long time ago.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
do it on the app. You have to go into Facebook and do it in your Facebook advertising preferences.
Oh,
It's
is it
really,
in-
really deep down in the Facebook menu stuff.
But that's not going to affect my Instagram, even though they own it.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how you used to switch it off. So that's what I did. But I did that about 6 years ago, or whenever Facebook first bought them. And I've never, ever had an advert. Ever.
Is that right?
Never.
Well, I'm going to do that then.
What I will do for the people who are interested in that, because we've rambled over that, is I will put the actual steps to how to switch off Instagram adverts. Whether it works or not, still I don't know, but I will do it.
Well, there is relevance to it because Jonathan Kerr sent us a mail. Pick a legendary photographer from any genre, he said, specifically a photographer that came to prominence in the days before the internet. Were there days before the internet? Now transport them to 2020 and the world of godforsaken algorithms, feature pages and engagement pods. Now ask them to start all over again with no reputation to precede them, as though the world had never seen a single one of their images. Would they reach notoriety again, or might they get lost in the Instagram shuffle like so many other incredibly talented photographers struggling to get traction in the age of the internet? What a very good question, Jonathan Kerr in Northern Ireland.
Well, it's dog eat dog. If you pick up a caveman from a million years ago,
Here we go.
and you and you dump him into Manhattan in 1995.
Well, there he is. Sounds like your wife.
What's he going to do? He's going to have to. He will be frightened and he'll be confused, but then he'll learn and he will evolve. That's the way it is.
Well, Stig, there's Tiffany's. What do you think, Stig? Right. He says, I'm going to break in and take the first thing that I see.
Yeah,
I've got a club.
I got a club. Yeah.
Stig, you won't get away with it. You won't get far.
And he's going to shout at people, I invented those wheels. I invented those wheels.
As he cycles off in his square-wheeled bicycle.
But no, honestly, I think that's... I know Jonathan is a very good photographer, but I do know that this is a common... complaint argument by people that we're not getting work because Instagram is unfairly treating us and all that kind of stuff, and ultimately it's the world we live in. You what are you going to do? Just sit down and moan about it, or do something about it?
Look at Jonathan. I don't think he's having a go at you.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not absolutely not having a go at Jonathan. I know Jonathan. He's a really good photographer in Northern Ireland.
I told you that.
No, he came on one of my workshops.
Did he?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. So I've already had his money, so I can have a go. Joking.
Well, I suppose if you look at photographers like, the first one that's coming to mind is Joey L. Do you know of Joey L? Okay. Now, Joey L is somebody who has grown up in the Instagram and social influencing world, I suppose, in terms of what he's done with photography anyway. And he's been incredibly successful, and he does he does all kinds of stories, including, actually, I saw that he was covering some Middle Eastern stories that were rather tricky, actually.
Well, he was embedded with the Afghans.
He flew in, didn't he?
Yeah. He's done a lot.
But he's very much the result of working, I suppose, right up from the bottom via Instagram, Facebook, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge. It's a challenge, and
he broke through the noise, is what I'm saying.
It's a challenge. Is the challenge... Okay, so this is a question. Is the challenge the medium, okay, the struggle that we all have with the medium, or is the challenge just the sheer volume? Okay, so if you do take a photographer from, let's just say, I don't know, the 70s, right? An established photographer from the 70s.
Somebody like a Bailey.
Somebody like a...
late 60s.
Somebody like a Bailey, yeah. Now...
Mid-60s.
There was not the opportunity to see so much photography. No. There was a handful of the what they call them, the Brat Pack. They were celebrities in their own right, and so they were the Instagram influencers of those days, if you like. They were celebrities. They were the ones on the adverts selling Olympus trip cameras and various other things. So the medium has changed, but the fact is there was a lot less of them. I mean, they were rightly where they were in the echelon of life, I suppose. But now, because of technology, so the cameras, the phones, the multitude of cameras we have, technology is everywhere. You've got webcams, you've got dash cams, you've got cameras absolutely everywhere, CCTV, everything, and so it's bred a whole new kind of humanity now is about photography, or that everybody has access to it pretty much. And so, is it because there's too much of us, them, photography, gear, cameras, whatever, or is it because Instagram is not promoting us enough? I think it's nothing to do with Instagram.
Do you have a dash cam?
I do. I've never ever used it.
All right, I have one, and I remember the other day while I was having a proper rant about the news, something I heard, and then I thought I was safe because it was just me in the car, and the language was choice. And then I remember my dash cam, of course, records everything, including noise, and I was thinking, well, don't have an accident now, because the last thing they'll look at is me. Ranting to the world.
Does it record all noises in a car?
Everything, yeah, the whole lot.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, Kev.
Oh dear.
Oh no. Right, moving on very swiftly.
There's some things you just go in the car for. Don't even go anywhere in it.
Right. Carl Hare. So you spoke to Carl, and this is going to be the start of a regular feature. How, by the way, did you manage to twist his arm into this?
Because Carl, we know Carl very well, obviously.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Fujifilm, I don't know what they call it, product specialist, evangelist.
We've got him pegged down as the man who knows pretty much everything about anything at all when it comes to Fujifilm cameras and products. So we've called him, as far as this show is concerned, the chief engineer, because in radio lingo or podcast lingo now, the chief engineer in the building is the guy who can fix everything, and not just fix, but obviously answer questions about anything and everything that you may have. And we sort of joined you two up in a particular way, haven't we?
We hooked up on Tinternet.
And this is going to be
a few questions.
This is going to be the first of many. So if you send a question in, how do people get questions in for Carl now?
So we are doing this via the Facebook group. Yep. However, you're more than welcome to email us directly if you so wish. We will deal with some of them as we go along, but we're kind of keeping the very technical type questions. Fujifilm only ones for him. That doesn't mean you can't send us questions for other cameras, of course, but we're going to have a feature where Carl, we unfold him from his little box and we throw him this tech stuff. But there is a thread on the Facebook group also, and I have been putting a little camera icon next to the ones that have been dealt with.
Brilliant. So it's about 5 minutes long or so each time we do this. It's very tech. Kevin is back cave talking to the chief engineer for the show, Carl Hare, who's in his testing lab, no doubt. Look, Kev, he even has a jingle.
Hail to the chief engineer.
So go on, Kev, release the first question.
This is from Ricky Manso, and he says, what does the XRAW Studio do when I increase the exposure by 1 stop? Does it act exactly like when we do it in the camera before we take a photo?
Yeah, so XRAW Studio, obviously, for people that don't know, is a piece of software that you can put on your computer, plug the camera in, and you can link the two and work off of your raw files off the camera by doing in-camera processing on your computer. Great bit of software. How it works exactly like you would in a camera. If you're going to change your exposure using exposure compensation, you're going to adjust your exposure plus or minus 1 stop, 2 stops, etc. It digitally does that in the camera using the processor rather than using the aperture, shutter speed, ISO, your 3 parts of exposure.
Cool. Yeah, I've been using it this morning actually because I'm doing some stuff for YouTube, and one question I get asked a lot is, why do you have to plug the camera into the computer? And my understanding is because the software, the processing is still done on the camera, because that's where the X-Trans sensors are and the processors and all that kind of stuff. So it has to go squirt all the information up the wire, and then the camera does the actual jiggery pokery, and then it sends all of the information back up the wire, and then you can save it as a JPEG or a TIFF or whatever on the desktop. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, next question is from, by the way, for those who don't use XRAW Studio, you can download it. It's free from the Fujifilm website. Essentially means you can just use your raw files and set up some funky JPEG settings, and away you go. So next one is from Tom Verhoeven. So he says, this is on an XT4 and XT3, by the way. He says, I always use auto ISO. Inside, I often use ISO 6400 and a minimum shutter speed of 1125. I know that if there isn't enough light, it will go below 125. Outside, I use ISO 16 and a minimum shutter speed of 500. I'd expect it to use 160, my minimum ISO, and 500 or above in sunny summer weather. But sometimes, for a reason I don't understand, it will use ISO 1600 and a shutter speed, something crazy like 6000. He goes on to say it's not lens dependent to his knowledge. Any ideas?
Yes, I actually tested this a couple of days ago when we had a bit of sun, and it's all to do with your dynamic range setting. So if you're using auto DR, it will pick 200 or 400 to try and get the best dynamic range out of the scene using a slightly faster shutter speed and a slightly higher ISO. When I took the auto dynamic range down to 100, it used the base ISO no matter what I did. So check your dynamic range setting is the first one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that was always my assumption as well. Now, a couple of side questions from me on that, just to verify in my own little tiny brain. Now, I always kind of, when I say to people about dynamic range, I say two things. One of them is that dynamic range only affects JPEGs and not RAWs. And I say that with a little caveat in that some software applications will read the dynamic range setting and apply an exposure adjustment based on that, but it's not affecting the actual raw file itself. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, correct, mate. Absolutely correct.
And then dynamic range 100, I've always basically assumed that's off. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's the standard dynamic range of your sensor rather than tweaking it to 200 and 400.
Cool. Okay. So message to Japan, please change dynamic range 100 to dynamic range off. Makes it a lot easier, which I'll consider. Okay. Dusko Petrovic, he says, XT10 camera in manual mode when I set shutter to 1/125th and the camera acts like it's in aperture priority and the shutter will change by itself on each shot. Any idea why this is happening?
Again, could be a dynamic range setting. I don't have an XT10 to hand or in our kit bag. That went back to Fujifilm a couple of years ago. I would carefully go through your settings and just make sure that things like dynamic range and things like that are where you want them to be. If it's acting like aperture priority and changing other settings, then there's another setting somewhere that's telling it to do it. So I just go through settings and have a look.
Next one is it's a GFX 50R question. Matt Searle says, any idea how to turn off image review in the EVF of my GFX 50R after I've taken a photo? I have playback turned off, but seems to be showing me just the taken image.
Yeah, so I had this with a couple of cameras, and it was actually the view mode in the viewfinder. Yeah. If you press the view mode, it will cycle through the 4 or 5 different options, and I had to change it so that it was just EVF, not EVF plus image display, EVF plus display, etc., etc. So try that first.
There we go, the first of the chief engineer slots, and thank you to Carl Hare. If you have a question for Carl, a product specialist at Fujifilm, then send them via the show's Fujicast Facebook page, as Kev said, gallantly looked after by Steve and Peter, and there'll be another 5 minutes or so next week, and it's the start of a series, and we're going to, when we're able to, have Carl in so that we can have a decent-sized chat over coffee about his background and so on. So before we head back to more questions and this week's Book of the Week, let's now hear from this week's guest, Australian X-Series photographer and, of course, ambassador to the brand too, Andrew Hall. We'll have links, of course, to what you hear about within the show notes as ever. Andrew, your story of why you picked up a camera and start photographing motorsport is similar to Russell Ord, really, Australia's leading surf photographer. He got injured in the sport, picked up a camera, started shooting, and that's pretty much how you started, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I've always wanted to record everything that I was doing. I was in a motorcycle club and we were doing racing motocross. A friend of mine sort of ran me over a little bit. So I was sitting out a few races, but I always took my camera with me anyway. So yeah, I just started taking pictures of those guys racing without me, and I found it hurt less than falling off a motorcycle. So it sort of progressed from me doing less riding and more photography.
I always like the way Australians underplay things. He ran over me a little bit and I sat out for a while. It was actually quite a bad accident, wasn't it?
Oh, no, not really. He just used me for extra traction, I think, out of the corners. Yeah, He's a mate, so it's all right. We don't hold grudges.
So look, we should probably cover this bit first of all, because I think there's so much relevance to other parts of the conversation. You've had to battle some adversity in your life. You've had a degenerative nerve condition called HNPP. Now, I know it means you have no feeling in your hands or feet. So this is quite a challenge for a motorsport photographer who certainly uses hands and feet in moving about to do what you need to do. Tell me about how you've not so much overcome it, but learn to live and work with it.
It is a degenerative condition, but look, I've had it for 25 years. I am very, very lucky. I'm blessed. I've got a brilliant medical team who enthusiastically provide me with new bits and pieces, new legs, new arms, arm braces and things like that. Being realistic, I know it's going to stop me eventually, but whilst I can still get around and still get on those long haul flights, I'm more than happy to keep going. Plus, I think the more I keep going, the more my doctors and my medical team are enthusiastic. If I just sat back and gave up, then I think they wouldn't be as progressive with the equipment that they provide me. So, look, it's I haven't really got too many issues. Like, obviously, I've got ankles that don't work. I wear braces, carbon fiber now, so it's very high tech. Carbon fiber legs because I've got no ankle lift.
Yeah.
So no feeling in my legs below my knees, no feeling in my hands below, or my arms below my elbows. I can close my right hand. I can't open it. I can close my left, but the fingers are not that great. I'm a natural lefty, which it was my good hand. And look, this disease it's not uncommon, but I'm there's huge variance in the degree of affliction, I suppose, that people suffer. So I unfortunately are the poster boy for the extreme end. So I'm a bit unique, as my doctors keep telling me, so that I go back and provide them with the opportunity to use me as a guinea pig, because anything I can do to improve my quality of life and, deal with, because it does involve quite a bit of chronic pain and trying to, have a way around that and a plan for dealing with that is one of the big challenges. But thankfully I have my family, I have my photography.
I watched you photographing on YouTube quite a lot, there's various films, and I watched with a high degree of awe, actually, because you say you can't open one hand, you can't close another hand, but you still manage to hold the cameras. But you're helped, aren't you, with these, I don't know what they're called, but there's some contraptions that have been built for you where you can wrangle these cameras and also the longer lenses when you need to as well.
That was one of the main reasons I switched to mirrorless and the Fuji system. I couldn't carry the heavy gear anymore. My doctors build me these dynamic braces on my arms. But yeah, again, having no feeling, sometimes I'm pushing the shutter button at the start of a race going, why is it not firing? Why is it not firing? And then I look over the top of the camera and my finger's nowhere near the button. Right. So a few little challenges like that, but to be able to, I try and keep fit. I try and keep active. I've got physio 3 times a week and other exercise programs. So I'm trying to maintain what function I have in my hands. I use monopods, obviously with the bigger glass. And I tend to be a little bit stubborn, I think, when, they say I can't do something and I tend to do it and then do it more. But, yeah, look, it's the main issues are just having no feeling in my hands. So that can be a little bit awkward.
Well, you've touched on the reason why you obviously went to the Fuji system. Motorsport photography has been dominated by giant lenses, thumping huge DSLR. What's the reaction been like from your colleagues about the system? I would imagine a few of them now are thinking, you know what, maybe it's time for me to swap too.
It was really funny. In the early days, I first started using the Fuji system in 2011. I've been lucky enough with my motorsport career. I've travelled all around the world and I travel every year to the Le Mans 24-hour with the exception of this year. So, I end up in Paris or I end up in a city, and I was just getting fed up with trying to carry around a massive, DSLR. Yeah. And it also spooked any of my photography, any subjects I was trying to photograph in the street or any, they as soon as you pick a big DSLR up and point it at them, then they sort of freak out. So I used the X100, which was the first one in 2011. Felt like Cartier-Bresson walking around Paris with this fixed lens, 35mm. Looked a bit like my grandmother's Voigtlander, and it produced amazing images. So I gradually introduced. Then the X Pro 1 came out, the XT1, and gradually introduced that to my racetrack kit. A few photographers were skeptical. I mean, this was probably 2014. I was still using a DSLR with the big glass because Fuji hadn't introduced anything at that point. But when they looked at the images on my laptop, they went, okay, I can see why you're using it. I was using it for a lot of the pit lane stuff and portraiture in the pits. So, the more capable it got, the less skeptical people became. And they were looking at my pictures going, it's a toy. And then 2 months later, they were walking down pit lane with an X Pro 1 or X Pro 2 around their neck. So, I'd like to have, I've been on commission. It would have been good.
Isn't the X100 series now your sort of go-to for pit lane work? Am I right in that?
No, the X100, I mean, the fixed lens, I've got the latest iteration, which is what, the V?
The V, yeah.
Look, that's if I'm leaving the house and I'm thinking, what camera do I grab? I'll grab that because it's just versatile. You can zoom with your feet. It forces you to be quite creative. Even before I used the Fuji system, I'd actually sold all my zoom lenses because I found that they were making me lazy. I was standing in one position and zooming in, whereas now, with the fixed lens, you have to be more creative. You have to zoom with your feet. You have to really think about your composition. So even before I'd switched to the mirrorless, I'd actually got rid of all my zooms.
What about the 50 to 140 and those sort of lenses? Are they not in your arsenal?
Yeah, they're brilliant. Yeah, because when I said I got rid of all my zooms, and then Fuji said, "Try this one," and I went, "No, I use primes for it makes me more arty, all that sort of thing." Yeah. And then I went, "Oh man, the 50-140 was just brilliant." Yeah. Even with Birdie, you can't really tell that you've got the converter on it. They kept introducing really, really lovely glass. The 90mm is actually the 90mm f2 is one that I use in the pits purely because it's f2. It's bright. I don't think I've used it on any other aperture other than f2, and it's the equivalent 135. So it's a beautiful portrait lens. I'm very lucky that the actual photos I have to supply to the people I work for, they let me go and do what I want to do. They just say, give me some pretty pictures. So it's a lot of portraiture combined with the track stuff. I think now I've the 16-55, the 50-140, the 100-400, 10-24. Other than that, they're all primes. I've gone back on my.
For a lot of people, a lot of photographers, motorsport is that. It looks extremely glamorous. It's a very glamorous world, fast cars. There's a lot of money in motorsport. It's that kind of world that we look in and think, wow, that would be so cool to be involved in that. I'm sure it's a lot harder work than that.
Look, it is. Look, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. That's simple as that. Especially given the restrictions I have with my physical limitations. But I can't imagine not doing it. It is. People say, "Oh, it must be great traveling. It must be doing," and especially in Australia because we obviously are miles from anywhere. The crew I work with are either from the States or from England. And they carry on about, it was a 9-hour flight. I'm going, guys, 9 hours, we're still over Australia. So just put it into a bit of perspective. And look, it's especially, take Le Mans, for example. It's a full week of late nights. Some of the qualifying sessions don't finish till midnight. Then you're up again in the next morning. To a degree, digital has made it more challenging because editors expect images straight away. I've been shooting for 20 years, 30 years now. Obviously, I started very young, but I shot a lot of film. I shot. So the only thing you could do at the end of a practice session was come in, have a cup of coffee and charge your batteries because you couldn't do anything. The film had to be processed and then you had to go through the images. Now, the flag drops at the end of the session and the editor's on the phone going, where are my pictures? To that degree, it's a little bit more full on. A day at Le Mans, the race is 24 hours long. starts at, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but you get to the track at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning for the race day. So all the preparation build up happens. The race starts at 3. So by 3 o'clock in the morning, you're thinking, oh, it's all right. I've only got 12 hours to go, but it's not. It's just, I think I was awake one year for 41 hours.
Goodness.
And it's grueling, especially if the weather is hot. So people think it is, you've got access to the drivers and there's all the glitz and the glamour, but which there is. And the beauty of the series that I photographed, the World Endurance Championship, is that it's a family. So it's a family that travel, and we meet up, 6-7 times a year. We all look out for each other. The media people are great. If you're the regulars, everything's sorted for you. You're fed and watered. So it makes it a little bit easier. But if you have to walk around for 12 hours, in a day, carrying all your gear in all sorts of heat and dust and rain, the glamour sort of disappears.
I guess motorsport photographers must have their favourite locations, or do you try to look for something different to the others when you arrive? I mean, you mentioned you're sort of setting up at 6 or 7 in the morning. Is there a jostling? Is there that's my place, I've got that place, I know it's the best place?
There's the trouble with going back to a track like Le Mans for, so this would have been my 19th trip back. You can't just go to the same corner and the same spot. Sure, there's the iconic shots, but the track is always evolving. They're making changes for safety. They're putting another gravel trap in. The old barn that was in the background of one shot is gone the next year. They had a big fire at Le Mans and took down half the forest, and that took away a number of shots, but it also presented us with some new ones. But I think if you're going back to the same corner and the same thing, and you're just playing it safe, you've got to try and find something different all the time. Don't stand with the group. I think I've shot there's an iconic shot at Le Mans, sunrise under the Dunlop Bridge, and there's like 50 or 60 photographers, all getting the same shot. So I would go around a little bit further and get them coming under the bridge the other way, or try to find something a bit unique. Otherwise, you're competing against 50 or 60 other photographers, and I think it's better for you to be able to push yourself a little bit more. Otherwise, you become complacent and then you become predictable.
And Andrew will be back next week to talk more about the motorsport industry and a little more of how he relaxes photographically. So more to come from him next week in part 2. Right, Kev, before we start with the questions, we've got a few thank yous to make.
Thank you so much to those of you that have supported us on Patreon. Patreon.com Fujicast is the place to go if you wish to help us out. Don't feel obliged. We will be here always. And we have...
Do feel obliged. We won't be here for always, no.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, feel as obliged as you wish.
Good cop, bad cop.
We have a whole load of new names, which
Man
is
needs
great.
to feed family. Man needs to feed family.
Yes, quite right. He's quite right. We have Rainierberg, Bill Brulette, Steve Vaughan, Andy Saywell, Kent Johansson, Mark Neal, Ali Stewart, Kevin Beecham, Jess Camilleri, Eric Delorme, Donald Ridgway, Joey Campagna, Emily Renier, Peter Katzbergen, Ignacy Zolwalski, Sam Meggs, Steve Dyke, and Tommy Wessel. Tommy Two-Tone.
There we go.
So thank you so much to all of you guys and girls for supporting us on the Patreon.
Yes.
For the price of a cup of coffee of a month, you can help us pay our mortgage.
Thank you.
Right, questions. Kev, you can go. Is it your turn to go first or mine?
You did the Instagram question, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah, Jonathan Kerr.
That was so last year.
Yes. Okay, I've got one from Scott Johnson.
Yeah.
Not really a question as such, more of a kind of thing.
A point?
A point, maybe. I did my first shoot in weeks at the weekend. I was asked by a friend to shoot her daughter's Holy Communion. Took the trusty GFX 50S and lenses. I get to the house, set up, and I left the viewfinder at home. So I had to shoot using the back of the camera. So my question is, what's the silliest thing you've forgotten for a shoot?
Oh, hang on a minute. Right at the start of the show, when you said to me it was a silly idea to have an eye cup holder, he could have had his spare eye cups in an eye cup holder.
You're not going to get
designed by Steve.
You're not going to get a GFX eye cup in one of them.
I know these need to be bigger. It's a redesign of the system, but
yes, quite well. There you go. That's quite a spectacular thing to forget. I have to say.
It is, yeah. Is that an expensive thing to forget? Probably is, isn't it? A GFX one.
Jeff, the viewfinder. Well, it depends if it's the tilt adapter, which is about 400 quid.
Yeah.
Could be that.
And the worst thing is that they'll say, what's this that we found on the floor? Oh, I don't know. It must have fallen. Chuck it in a bin.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Scott, that's not probably making you feel better.
But the good thing is there's no cameras that I can think of that if you do lose a viewfinder, lose an iCup, the LCD falls off or something like that, that you can't really still shoot. Actually, there's a couple with the LCD issue. So X70, for example.
You wouldn't be able to, would you?
You can get an external viewfinder for that. What is the silliest thing you've forgotten then?
My cameras. Yeah.
That's quite spectacular.
Yeah. Fortunately, it wasn't on a wedding day. That would have been a disaster. Can you imagine that? It was a disaster, actually. It was on a filming day. I packed everything, diligently packed. It was a complicated sound setup. So, in my defence, I spent the morning packing loads of sound gear and all, for this. I had to pack things that would work outside because there was a bit of an outside shoot. It was a windy day, so I got a shotgun mic. Anyway, I packed all the sound stuff in. Had to take a load of lighting, sound, lunch. Remember my lunch? And I was halfway to Windsor, and I thought, did I pack my cameras? And I pulled over. I know you shouldn't do this. I pulled over onto the hard shoulder.
Oh.
I know, but it was, close to a junction where I could turn round. And I looked in the back and I thought, oh, shoot.
Or no shoot.
Words to that effect. Yeah. So there we go, cameras.
So did you go back and get them?
Oh, yeah. Well, I couldn't turn up and say any chance I could borrow your iPhone.
No, but you had enough time for it.
I was a bit late, but
that's pretty good. Michael Schilling added to that question, saying, "Well, in that case, what's the silliest thing you have taken to a shoot?"
All right, Kevin. I took him a couple of years ago to a shoot. Yeah. He was absolutely useless.
Yeah, that's right. Just sat in the corner shaking.
Yeah, rocking. I don't know. Silliest thing ever taken. I don't know. What would be I'm not quite sure what a silly thing you would take to a shoot would be.
Don't know. I would imagine Michael has probably got some ideas about that. Michael, let us know.
Yeah.
What is the silliest thing you've ever
His
taken to a
mind
shoot?
works in mysterious ways.
Well, he interestingly used to be a ship photographer.
He was.
Very
Be
long time.
very careful how you say that.
Ship.
Cruise ship.
Yes. Cruise ship. Both of them did, Scott and Michael. Anyway, I think we've done that question. Let's move on. Well done.
What's the thing you've forgotten, by the way? While we're
I don't think I was racking my brains. Nothing. I'm brilliant.
Oh, God.
I do often stop, though. I have to say, I do often stop to check the back of the car just in case I have forgotten. I keep having these kind of visions. You're driving along listening to Nancy Griffiths on the iPod or something in the car, and
what?
And you think, hang on, did
Nancy
I remember putting the bag down behind the car when I opened the boot. Now, did I actually pick the bag back up and put it in the boot? That goes through my mind all the time.
I did, funnily enough, you have reminded me. I mean, this is not essentially what the question was asking, but I do remember this being at a wedding, and I went out to the car where I'd put this signing frame in the boot. Open the car, open the boot, or the trunk, as you would call it in America, of course. Got the signing frame out, but it was quite a heavy signing frame, and I put the car keys in the boot. And then I took the signing frame out, closed the boot, went back in, and then I went far enough to hear the auto locking.
Yeah.
I thought, car keys. My father-in-law drove for miles with a spare set of car keys. Turn up about 11 p.m. at night.
And luckily, you can't do that now. But, most modern cars.
Not on the cars. No, that was quite a few years ago. But anyway, right, questions, yours.
Right, okay, I'm going to go for one of the bumps to the front.
Right.
Okay, so as a patron member, which we've already mentioned, you do get the opportunity to be bumped to the front with your questions. So we're going to go straight in with one from Ludis, who says, I have a couple of X-Series cameras and the GFX50R. Right now, I'm sharing lenses between the two systems using a Mamiya 645 lens.
Right.
And I've been very happy with the results. He says, Kevin, at one point, I know you shot for your local rugby club and would love to get your view on what a photographer needs in terms of glass for shooting live action. Can you recommend a lens that could be shared between the two systems, X and GFX, that would let me use the auto features on both? A reasonable price, whatever that might mean, is preferable. Well, the GFX really isn't something that certainly
You wouldn't
not the
take that to
50R
a
is
rugby
not something
shoot,
I
would
would
you?
suggest.
No.
I mean, you will get some very good shots if
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
pre-focus in and wait
Yes.
and get the timing quite right. But you're not going to be chasing the players around the pitch with a 50R. Simple as that. No, the X cameras, yes, of course you can. There is, as far as I'm aware, you cannot get an adapter that allows the GFX lenses to be mounted on an X series, and vice versa. Maybe that will change in due course, but the sensors are so big and different that there would be a lot of issues there. I don't know. He says he's got the Mamiya 645 lenses that work, the 3580. Don't know. I mean, ultimately, the main part of the answer is there is no lenses that can be shared between the two of them that's going to allow you to do that. Sadly, I would just keep to the X series for the sports stuff.
I remember Andrew Hill saying with the X series that the 50-140, he loves that lens. And with the stabilization, he was talking about the XH1 actually, with a converter, works perfectly for him.
Yeah, I've got that. I use the 50-140 when I do the sports stuff.
I haven't got a 50. Did I loan you my 50-140? I don't appear to have. Joey Campagna has also been bumped to the front. Hello, guys. Love the show. Blah, blah, blah. Just wondering what you think of the big news about Toshihisa Leader, a.k.a. Mr. X, being promoted from Electronic Imaging and Optics General Manager to President and GM of Fujifilm Europe. This will increase the amount of revenue he's responsible for by about 2.5 times. So great news for him and his career, but some uncertainty for us Fuji fans. From a strategic standpoint, he's basically the architect of the X GFX systems, as I understand it. We've all benefited from his commitment to product vision and decisions to be pure to the ideals of the customer versus being motivated only by chasing sales. And that's a rare thing, I think, in an executive.
Yeah, I mean, I know Toshi, met him a few times, and he's a wonderful person. He loves photography. He loves records. He's a huge David Bowie fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that was not the reason why the David Bowie show was the first thing that showed at the Hop, was it? By any chance?
Possibly. I don't know, but he is a huge David Bowie fan. I have sung David Bowie songs with him in Japanese karaoke bar at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I should love to hear that. Oh dear.
So ultimately he was I suppose, to give you a little bit of backstory, and this is my understanding of it, I might be slightly off track, but the X series was born from a few people who kind of backed the X100, which of course is the 10th anniversary of the X100.
We were just about to mention that. Yep.
And Toshi would have been one of those people. And there was 23 of them, I believe, in the team, and they've grown exponentially, and he's done extremely well. But every time I've met him, and every time I've seen him at events and everything, he always has time for you, and he always is asking, what can we do next? What can we do to make it better? But he never says things like, what do you want?
No.
What would you want? What he says is, how can we make things better for photography? And so, I'm really pleased for him. He's worked very, very hard and done well for himself. So the question is, what would happen perhaps when somebody who is so ingrained in photography and the vision behind it moves on? We just have to hope that the new chap has a similar kind of mentality, I guess. Which I'm sure he does. I
think the vision of the company would suggest that they would get somebody that would. I mean, they must have thought and searched. I would have thought.
Listen, the Fujifilm. In fact, all Japanese culture, business culture. You join a company in Japan. Typically, you stay there forever, and you are, your life basically revolves around making that company do well. So you're not going to have somebody who's coming in just to make up the numbers or anything like that. He will be fully ready for the job. I remember sitting in the back of a car with Toshi once,
out of the karaoke bar. Who, by the way, would like to hear Kev sing karaoke? I would.
We had a conversation about a monochrome sensor.
Right.
Now this was in 2013. And we're in the back of this taxi. You were still in
shorts then?
I was still in shorts. X100, X Pro 1 had been released. That was about it. X100, X Pro 1. Not a lot else had kind of come along at that point. And we sat in the back of this taxi in Japan, and he was like, "What do you think about a monochrome sensor?" And of course, I was all over that, and he was very excited by it too. And I think that was like the fledgling conversation of those things. Obviously, it didn't go anywhere, and absolutely makes sense. It didn't go anywhere because of the the restrictions involved in doing something like that. But at that point, he was the one kind of asking about the photography and what do people want, and what would be good. So a big passion in photography, big passion in music. Really nice guy.
Simon Rigby sent in a mail, and I'll bypass all the blah-de-blah-de-blahs. The X100 has a special birthday, since we were talking about it. Who got there first, Neil or Kevin?
Got where? To our 10th birthday?
No. He means who bought the X100, the original X100 first. Definitely you, I would have thought.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact that I was very much early adopter. So I ordered it, but I pre-ordered it before it was...
I pre-ordered it.
Yes, but...
I had ordered it when they hadn't even thought of it.
So I can prove that I had it earlier than you, and this is very anal because I
designed it.
I spoke to, long time later, I spoke to somebody at Wex when it was still called Warehouse Express, who I ordered it from. And a couple of weeks later, they sent me an email saying, we had that conversation about, who were the early adopters of the original X100. And they went through the order list.
Was yours the first?
I was the third.
Wow, a third?
On Warehouse Express.
Right.
And bear in mind, Warehouse Express had the first batch in the UK.
Who were the first two, do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it's a shame.
GDPR. Well, it would have been way before GDPR.
I think I was second, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, well, I still have you still got yours?
No.
I still have mine, and it's signed.
Yeah. What are your earliest memories of that camera then, since we're talking about the X100?
Just that it was beautiful to look at, very frustrating to use, but the images that came out of it were beautiful when you got the images out of it. But my overall memory of it, I took it to a wedding. It came on a Thursday, funny enough, and I had a Thursday afternoon wedding. And so I took it with me. I was still shooting my Canon DSLRs at the time, so I did most of the work with that. And then I kind of got this camera out, and I just thought, wow, it was frustrating because it was slow to focus at the time. But I was like, my God, this is incredible. This is like I can do whatever I want with this camera.
Well, why couldn't you do that with a Canon?
This is about 20 times bigger.
Well, yeah, but
I couldn't go on the dance floor and shoot with one hand with my Canon 1D Mark IV and a 70-200 lens on it.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, 70-24, 60.
70-200,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. The big white one.
Yeah.
They said, I've arrived, I'm pro.
Yeah, and I think, actually, I didn't use the zooms. I had a 35mm and an 85mm. But either way, that Canon system was heavy and big, and, So
Mind you had the one, didn't you? The one, what's it called? 1D.
I had the 1D Mark IV and a 5D Mark II, I think.
Okay.
Mark 1, Mark II. Anyway, but either way, this camera was just small. It looked nicer. I could see in the electronic viewfinder what the image would look like as well. And to me, that was like, whoa.
New land.
Yeah. Just stuck everything on A. never looked back.
I might not have my original one, but I do have the F, and I didn't go to the V.
I've got all of them now. In fact, I'm doing a YouTube video about it.
I'm talking of YouTube, Kev. You have to show your new YouTube film that you've done. Documentary photography tips by Kevin Mullins. Link to it in the show notes. But I want to show you this. I got this from Tim Binder the other day. I mentioned him on the Photography Daily show last Friday just gone. He sent me a lens, a Yashica 28mm vintage lens, and he sent me the adapter as well. And I put it straight away. I got the X Pro 1 out again because I thought actually that with the I've literally turned it into a monochrome camera really. So this is my monochrome camera. It's fantastic to use.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
Oh, doesn't that sound good?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good as well. Looks good with that vintage lens on it.
Yeah. So I was chuffed with that. Thank you again, Tim Binder. He did say we could share the lens. So you can have it Tuesday to Thursday. I'll have it the rest of the time.
I want it on the second week. What about school holidays?
Good point. We'll work it out. Anyway, your question.
Steve Dyke says, do either of you have a go-to for getting out of a slump?
Oh, talking of.
Could be a favourite location, revisit locations at new time of the day, new gear, etc. With less travel because of COVID. I'm in a bit of a slump and looking for ideas to get the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. The fridge, I find, is a good place to start with all those cans of San Miguel.
I haven't drunk a drop of beer this week.
Have you not?
No.
You did whiskey the other night.
I've done a bottle of whiskey, though. Yeah. Tell you what, though, it stops the bloating.
Does it?
Yeah, great.
Oof, dear, I'd be on the floor.
It's cheaper too, really.
Is
when
it?
you think about it, yeah.
What? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, a place where you go when you're in a creative slump. I started, this is going to sound weird. We have a towpath close to us along the Kennet and Avon Canal, and I go there a lot. I went there a lot during actual lockdown, when we weren't allowed to go far from the house. And I've been photographing all the... they have little numbers, and a lot of them have been for the fishermen. They're like where they're allowed to sit. And it goes all the way along the canal. And a lot of them have been hidden by vines and all sorts of stuff. And I've been photographing that. And I find that's a little project. But that has, of late, taken me out of... Whenever I've thought, oh, where is the business going? You know, as it fires out the back door. And I've been doing that. And that's been the place where I go.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I have to say that I struggle with this massively because I really have not been taking anywhere near as many pictures recently as I normally would do. And, you know, for all various reasons, you know, got all kinds of stuff going through your mind about the business and, you know, trying to do some filming and, you know, and you know, my kind of ongoing battle with just general humanity that doesn't seem to want to be photographed anymore. You know, and I'm just like, actually, you know, so typically... I mean, it's not a photography element, but the thing that kind of gets me in my zone, happy zone, is going to the gym.
Is it?
Believe it or not.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Gym buddy.
I go down to the gym, I switch everything off, and listen to my cheesy music, and I just treadmill it. Yeah. I go on the Watt bike and lift a couple of weights.
The what bike?
The Watt bike.
What is a Watt bike?
It's brutal. The Watt bike, yeah. And that's it. I do that for an hour, and I kind of that unplugs me from the world.
Does it?
Yeah.
Makes you feel better.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's the point. It makes me feel better. Yeah.
Because otherwise,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
There we go for Kev. Right, books.
Yes.
What have we got this week?
So this week we have this.
Look at this thing.
Yeah, this.
Blow the dust off.
Got my little white gloves on this. This is it's hard to even see the front because
it's fantastic.
Doesn't even have a
look at it.
A sleeve. So this is called The Story of the World in Pictures. Yeah. So everything that's ever happened in the world has been photographed is in this book.
No way.
Yeah.
It looks like something out of a Harry Potter set.
It does, doesn't it? So this book was published in 1934.
It looks much older than that.
So it doesn't have anything after 1934. Listen to these lovely pages.
Okay.
Flicking, ready?
Here we go. You've got an ASMR channel. Look, keep doing it. We'll get millions. That's it. And that's it for another week. We'll join you next.
They've all gone to sleep. Okay, so...
But that is literally what people do on these ASMR channels.
Yeah, I know. It's very bizarre. Okay, so this book, by the way, the reason why I brought this was because I've had this for a long time, but I remember buying it on...
Well, since 1934.
On eBay or something like that, I think. Yeah. So I did check it out, and it's still widely available. So this isn't something, even because of its age...
So this is a well-known photography book.
Well, this is, back in those days, they used to have like these almanacs.
Yes.
And things.
Yeah.
This isn't an almanac, but these are the kind of things that people would buy every year, kind of thing.
I used to get an almanac every year for a Christmas present.
Yeah, I had one once. The hood fell off.
What?
So this book is...
oh, God, you're doing jokes. There we go.
Funny. So all I'm going to do with this book is there's a lovely little quote at the front, okay, and then I'm going to just flip to some random pages and talk to you about it.
Right.
Now, bear in mind it's 1934, so some of this stuff, some of the opinions and the types of pictures that are in this might not be pictures that...
The story of the world in pictures.
...would be taken these days. So it's edited by Harley Usil.
Yes.
And the photographs obviously from multiple places, and H. Douglas Thompson as well. It's published by Odhams Press, London, Longacre.
So these are photographers around the world?
Yeah, of course, yeah, because these are probably all taken from the news. Okay, right, the preface.
Mm-hmm. Settle in.
So, and this is in beautiful Times New Roman font, lovely, soft, smell that book. Oh, Monty. Okay, so this is what it says, right? I'm going to read just the first two paragraphs. To see the world, the desire and ambition of all, the privilege of the few. And yet, were a man fortunate enough to spend the whole of his life in happily wandering over the face of the earth, he would be lucky to see as much as we see in this book. Our forefathers listened, breathless, to travellers' tales of men, but a single eye in the middle of the forehead, of fire-breathing basilisks of mermaid sirens.
Wonder where you were going then.
We can see here more and greater wonders still. The wonders of truth, ever stranger than fiction from real countries, quite as romantic as those fabled isles of ancient story. And then it goes on to say, from China to Peru.
You don't get many photo books that start like that.
No, so the preface, interestingly though, if you read between the lines of that preface, what it's saying is, look, in this picture, we're going to show you things, from tribes and things that you just think are made up and make-believe and that's exactly what's in here. So I've turned to
page after page. I mean, there's usually about 4 pictures per page by the looks of it.
I've turned to page 153, right? Yeah. And the title of this page is How Man Feeds Himself. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's ironically pictures of women picking tea and things like that. So how man feeds himself, it was of its time. Of course, that's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that's the stuff that's in here. I'm going to flip to page 192, and this is called. I can
smell the book from here now. By the way,
this is called How Man Shelters Himself.
Does every page start with how man does something?
Yeah, well, kind of. Right. I'll do a couple more in a minute.
How does man shelter himself?
Houses with only one wall. Okay,
one wall,
and what? This is Native Australian. So this is a picture of Aborigines, and it's a great picture. Bear in mind, this is 1934. You were never going to see this kind of stuff on the TV or anything, right?
Most people didn't have it. Was TV around? Yeah, John Logie Baird, had he done it by then?
Not sure. The Australian native weaves a scene of leaves and bark and rushes, or wood and turf. Yeah. This flimsy affair, propped on a couple of uprights, is the only kind of home he knows how to construct. This photograph shows a hunting party of the few remaining Aborigines posing in front of a series of windbreaks, as they're called, in a clearing in the bush.
Fabulous. I mean, there's a disturbing quaintness to the language, of course. I mean, you're right, it's a warm-toned almanac. Go on, flip to another page.
How man talks to man.
Right.
There's no pictures on this though. It's all text, and it starts with, letters are still the simplest and most commonly used means of sending messages on every continent. Yeah. And then it goes on about the network of airmail routes. Yeah. The radio telephone has annihilated distance. The radio telephone. Brilliant, isn't it?
Imagine they would have been looking forward and seeing mobile technology. Yeah. Take one more picture for us.
Okay, one more picture. So I've moved to, it's aptly called broadcasting.
All right.
There is several pictures on here. I'll go to the one with...
look at that.
There's a picture of Neil and Tony Blackburn here, walking hand in hand.
That's my dad.
Air and temperature to order. Yeah. And it's a picture of 3 men with what looks, I don't know, they look like washing machines to me, but you could probably tell me what those things are.
They're aerometers.
Those things.
That's true, isn't it?
No, they're air conditioners. I was closer.
They're not air conditioners.
It says the largest air conditioning system in the world has been installed in the National Broadcasting Corporation section of Radio City. Shown above is the control panel for regulation of temperature in all parts of the studio building. The large dials keep a constant graphic record of air conditions in each section, thus ensuring the minimum discomfort to artistes. Wow, that's incredible. They're called. The talent. Yeah. So listen, this book is has its it was of its time, so just bear that in mind. But I think it's wonderful, like absolutely wonderful. And it covers literally everything. I'm looking at literature now. They're talking about the theatre, the age of great actors. Yeah. You can just imagine this being read out by a 1940s broadcaster on, with his pinched voice on the BBC.
Pinched voice.
Oh, look, the cup final. Yeah. Mankind at play.
I always love pictures of cup finals from the turn of the last century. People were packed in like sardines and nobody cared.
The rapid progress of association football throughout the continent of Europe and the South America states is an eloquent testament to the great popularity of this winter game. There we go. I think we've done that book.
Yes. I think you were going to be there forever otherwise. I was just about to bring a sleeping bag in. There we go. That's it for another week. Thank you to our guest Andrew Hall and, of course, Carl Hare.
Yes.
For making his first appearance.
One of many. First of many.
The Brain. Yeah. Yes, please keep sending your questions in. Send them to click@fujicast.co.uk, or of course you can go in through the Facebook page and send them to us via that.
And the website.
Oh, and the
well,
website,
remember,
shiny newish website.
Lots of stuff on those. I am not seeing enough people go to the pages,
Right.
so the show notes. So if I don't see those numbers go up, I'm giving up. I'm going to lock it down. I'm going to shut
you?
it. Yes.
You're going to stop the
A
whole thing.
lot of effort goes. We put videos on there and
You
all
do?
sorts of things.
Yeah.
So go there.
Kevin's spoken.
Not when you're driving though. Listen to it on a podcast app.
Absolutely, yes. Not when you're driving. I've completely lost my. Oh yes. And also you can send your questions in via for all our lovely patrons. You can send them in and get bumped to the front as well that way. Thank you, and we will see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.